So access specifiers in Java. So as the name indicates, they specify whether you can access a member of a class or not. So what do you mean by a member in a class? It can be a member variable, that means which stores data, or even a method. So both are called as members, right? So there are two types of members for a class. One type of member is nothing but the variables which store data, and the other type of members is method. Methods will perform what operations on the data. And coming to variables, variables can be of different types. They can be class variables, they can be object variables, right? So when we say variables, it includes both the types of variables, object variable as well as the class variables. Okay. So methods, when we say methods also, there are different types of methods. We will see some other additional concept in methods also after this one. But as of now, we have seen two types of methods. One is the init method, which is called as a constructor method for a class, and the other methods are normal methods. So whatever it is, whether it is an init method or normal method, all these methods will have the self parameter, right? So in Java, you have three types of access specifiers. First one is private, then you have protected, and third one is public,
Okay.
right? So we have these three types of access specifiers in Java, but coming to Python, will not have the concept of protected. Will just have private and public. Okay. So by default, all the methods that we define are public. So far, whatever methods we have declared, we have used in our programs in object-oriented programming concepts. All the methods are public methods, right? Even members also. But what if you want to make them private? That we need to know how to create private members of a class. So first we'll see private data members, and then we'll see the private methods. Okay. So look at this program. At the top you have the in the comments I have mentioned there, public data members of a class can be accessed from anywhere. Anywhere in the sense from within the class or from outside the class. And coming to private data members, they are accessed only within the class or through public methods of a class. That means if there is a private we are discussing about data members, not about methods, right? So when you talk about members of a class, members of a class are of two types, right? So two types of members will be there in a class. First one is data members, which are nothing but variables. Why we call them as data members means because they are used to store data in them. And then methods, which represent the operations performed on the variables, right? So now in this program we are going to discuss about data members only, the first type of members, that is nothing but data members. So when you talk about public data members, they can be accessed from anywhere in the sense from within the class or from outside the class. But coming to private data members, they can be accessed only within the class or through public methods of a class. Public methods of a class means, say for example, look at this program. So the class name I am creating is access. Then I am defining the init method inside the class. Then one more method called display method. Okay. So in the init method, we are passing two parameters x and y, which are used to initialize the two data members of the class. The first one is a, self dot a. So what do you mean by self dot a? It is a object variable, right? If it is a class variable, we'll declare it outside the class, but because it is an object variable, we'll declare it inside a method and use the self keyword for it. So look at the next second data member. After self dot, you have two underscore symbols. If you precede any variable, any data member or any variable with a double underscore, then that variable will be considered as a private variable, private data member. Okay, so by default, if you don't use any symbol, that will be a public member. So a is a public member and b is a private member. Okay, so b is a private data member. So how to create a private data member? Just precede that data member variable name with a double underscore symbol. So self is common irrespective of whether you are using a data public data member or private data member. You need to use self keyword for all the data members of a class except the class variables. Okay, then in the display method, so I'm trying to access using the print statement a access from class method. I'm printing self dot a. Okay, but coming to the next print statement, b is access from class method, so self dot b. Self dot, when you're accessing it also, you have to use a double underscore symbol. Okay, so next, I'm creating an object for this class called access and passing 10 comma 20. Then the init method will be invoked and 10 will be assigned to a and 20 will be assigned to b. Then I am using a print statement and displaying a message a accessed outside the class using object. So I'm accessing it using the object obj.a. Then I'm making a call to the display method. The display method using the object obj.display. So let me show you the output for this program. The first print statement in the display method, a accessed outside the class using object. Sorry, outside the class. The first print statement. This print statement will automatically execute a accessed outside the class using object. This will print the value of a, that is 10. Then after that, you are getting an error when you make a call to the display method. Why? Because b is a private method, you can access that private method uh, only through only within this init method where you have declared it. Okay, or you have to access it using through a public methods of a class. So because I am accessing it using a display method, I'll get an error here for this statement. So it is mentioned here in the comment. You are able to see the following print will generate error because it tries to access private member b of the class. So from where you are trying to access, from you are trying to access from the outside the class. This is illegal, you cannot access it, right? So now I'll put this in comment. Then I'll run the program again. So First print statement outside the class is printing a accessed outside the class using object 10. Then you're putting this one inside a comment. So the the statement will be skipped and this statement will be executed. So as a result, the display method will be invoked, and the first print statement in the display method will display the value of a, that is 10. Then the next print statement, b access from class method self dot under double underscore b. So this will be legal because you are accessing it through the public member. So you know how you can say this display method is public, because we are not using any special underscore symbols or anything for this one. Okay, so what do you understand from this? By default, any method that is defined is public unless you use the double underscore symbol, even the data members also. So if you want to access a private member of a class, that is example here is the b variable, you cannot access directly like this using an object. So in this print statement, I'm trying to access the value of b using the object obj that we created here, right? So this will be illegal. But when I access it through display method is member of the class, right? So what did we mention at the beginning? Private data members are accessed only within the class or through public methods of a class. Okay, so that means you can access the value of that variable not directly but indirectly through the public method of the class. This is direct accessing, this statement where you are using object to access the variable's value, right? Obj dot double underscore b. So you are directly accessing. So this will be illegal because b is a private member. And this calling of display method, and the display method is accessing the b's value here. So the display method, because it is the member of the class, you can access from the member of the class, right? Display is a member, so you can access it there. So indirectly I'm accessing the value of b from outside the class by making a call to display method. Instead of directly accessing the variable's value like this obj.b, I'm making a call to obj.display method, and then display method will make an access to this one, right? So this is just like uh, if you don't have entry into a particular campus to speak to some person, you can communicate it through the security in charge or somebody at the gate, right? So that he will communicate with that intended person, and he'll get back to you with the answer or the response from the concerned person. So that is indirect access. You're not directly interacting with the concerned person, but you're accessing through the security personnel, right? So in the same way, I'm not accessing the value of b from outside the class using the object obj like this. So if you try to do this one, it will not be permitted. You will not be permitted to do that. But display, if I'm using the display method in our example is just like a security personnel who you're making a call to them, then they in turn are making a call to the concerned person. So display method is called, and the display method in turn is accessing b's value, right? So that is the meaning of the second comment written here. What is that? Private data members are accessed only within the class. So that means within the class, inside this one I can access. I'm accessing inside the display method, right? Where display method is inside the access class, so I can access it, or through public methods of a class. Even if I want to access the value of b here in init method or any other method, I can access it directly using self.b, not just in display method. But when you want to access it outside the class, you have to access it only through public methods of a class. And remember, the private members must be preceded with a double underscore, right? So that preceding of double underscore, we call it as a prefix. So prefix double underscore. Okay. So then we'll see private methods. So in the previous program, we have seen private data members, right? So we have another type of members called methods. So we can also make a method a private. By default, all methods are public. So if you want to make a method private, you need to use the prefix, same prefix underscore double underscore symbol, so that the method will become private. Okay, so what is this comment saying? Like private attributes, you can even have private methods in your class. Like private data members, that is nothing but variables. You cannot access private methods outside a class. So if I try to access or call, make a call to this write method, which is a private method, because I'm preceding it with a double underscore symbol. So now this will become a private method of the class. So I'll not be able to access it using an object created for the class access methods, right? So look at the program. We are defining a class called access methods, and then we are defining the constructor init method. Then we are defining one private method called write method, and another method which is a public method. So displays public method. If you don't use this and double underscore symbol, then automatically all the methods will be public. Okay, so you have one private method and one public method. So what I am doing in the init method, I am initializing the first object variable a with 0, and even the second object variable b also with 0. So that means this init constructor is not receiving any parameters. Okay, then in the private method write, I am simply displaying using the print statement inside private method a is equal to self dot a and b is equal to self dot b. Then coming to display method, I am printing inside public method a is equal to self dot a, b is equal to self dot b. Okay, so I can access, this is legal, right? Because display is a public method and display is also the member of access methods class. So you can access both public method, public data member as well as private data member of the class. Okay, and in private method you can access the variable a as well as b, because even the private method is also a member of the access method class. So what is the restriction for accessing a data member, private data member? It can be accessed inside the class, but it cannot be accessed directly outside the class, right? So I can access inside this private method also the value of a and b. I'm creating uh, an object after that called ob1 for the class access methods. Then in the next statement, I'm trying to make a call to the write method, which is a private method. So this will generate an error because you cannot access private members of a class irrespective of whether it is a data member or method. Even methods can also cannot be accessed from outside the class. So this will generate an error. Then in the next statement, I'm making a call to ob1 dot access methods double underscore write. So what is this? Though you cannot access private members of a class directly, Python provides you a mechanism to make access to the private members of a private method of a class by using a small technique. Use just the object name dot followed by a single underscore symbol, then the name of the class access methods, then followed by double underscore name of the method write. So this is a loophole in Python. I don't know why they introduced this concept. Private members cannot be accessed from outside the class, means it cannot be accessed in any way, but you are accessing this write method from outside the class using this object, right? Then you are making a call to the display method, which is a public method. So let me run this program and show you the output. So inside private method, a value, b value are accessed directly. You can access that, and inside public method also you can access it one. I put this in comment, right? So this will not be executed, and as a result, there will not be any error. So how you are getting this output? Because you are making a call to write method and display method. Display method, directly you are making a call using the object ob1.display, but write method, how you are making an access to it? Using the same object dot single underscore symbol, then followed by name of the class, whatever name you gave for the class in which you define that private method. So the name of the class followed by double underscore, as usual for you have for the private method, right? So this must be written. So notice that there is no dot here after the name of the class. The dot will be there only after the object, but after the dot there must be a single underscore symbol, then followed by class name, followed by double underscore method name, right? Okay, so this is not going to generate any error for you. So this is an alternative mechanism to make access to private methods of a class. Okay, then, but if I try to call this write method directly using an object, then it will generate an error. See, first you are making a call to private method and public method as usual, as we have done earlier, but next you are trying to access the write method by using the object, right? So it is generating an error. Access methods object has no attribute double underscore write. Okay, so this will generate a error. So anyhow we have done this here also, right? Yeah, so I think I no need there is no need to write this one. If you just remove this one, then you will get an error. If you remove this one, what will happen? I'll not get output for the first version when I make a call to this write method using this alternative mechanism, as well as the display method directly using an object, because error will be generated here in this line. So as a result, these two methods will not be called, these two statements will not be executed, right? But earlier when I put this in comment and I have written this statement here after this ob1.display, then it these two statements have executed, they displayed the output, then after that you are getting an error. So that's the reason why in the previous case you got the output inside private method a is 0 v is 0, inside public method a is 0 v is 0, but then later after that you got an error. But this time you didn't get these two outputs, right? So at the beginning only you are making a call, so that's why you'll get an error here itself, and these two statements will not be executed. Okay, so this is how you can access private methods of a class and private data members of a class. So apart from this private members of a class, that is private data members, variables, and private methods of a class, we have another kind of method called static methods, right? So these static methods, uh, they don't require an object to be invoked. They don't require an object to be invoked, so as in Java. So look at the comment mentioned here. This will give you an understanding about static methods for a class. Any functionality that belongs to a class but that does not require the object is placed in the static method and can be accessed with the name of the class. You don't require an object, so you can directly use class name followed by dot operator and the name of the method. Okay, so static methods are, they are similar to class methods. They are similar to class method. The only difference is that a static method does not receive any additional arguments. Additional argument in the sense, uh, no, apart from the normal arguments that you pass, that is normal parameters, you will be passing for every method, including the constructor also, the self argument, right? But for a static method, you don't require a self argument. So that is a difference between normal class methods that we define and the static method of a class. So they can be normally called, but instead of using an object you have to use the class name. You need not create an object for that class in order to call the method. Okay. So, but how do you create the static method means, if it is in Java, we use the keyword static to qualify a method as a static method, even variables also. But coming to Python, we have something called a decorator. A decorator will be preceded with an at the rate symbol followed by uh, a name for it. So we need to use a decorator called at the rate static method before you define the method. Okay, so I'm making this hello method a static method. So how to do that means, just before you define that static method you use the decorator at the rate static method, then automatically any method which is defined for following the next following line will be considered as static method. Okay, fine. So if you look at this class, the class name is given as static demo. As usual, we are creating a constructor for the method for the class. It receives one default self argument, no other arguments. That means arguments are zero, because we don't consider self as an actual argument, right? But coming to this hello method, which is created as a static by mentioning the decorator static method. So if you look at the hello method, there is no self argument for this one. So as I mentioned earlier, a static method does not require any additional argument like self. Okay, so no need to give anything. You want to give any other parameters you can give, but no need of using self parameter. So what is the init method doing? It is simply displaying a message class instantiated. And what is hello method is doing? It is displaying a message, this is a static method, and then it is prompting the user to enter his name, then it will print hello concatenated with that particular name that the user enters. So even before the class is instantiated, class is instantiated means an object is created for the class. So whenever an object is created for a class, we say that the class has been instantiated. The class has been instantiated. So I'll mention here. Okay, whenever a class is created, object is created for a class, it is said to be instantiated. Okay, so normally we do this instantiation by creating an object and making a call, automatic call to the constructor method. The constructor method will initialize the object variables with some values. So that's why I'm displaying a message class instantiated in the constructor, because it will be by default called when you create an object. But even before you instantiate a class by creating an object, you can make a call to a static method. How you can make a call to the static method means by using the class name. So look at the next statement outside the class, which is the first one outside the class. I'm using class name static demo dot hello. That means I'm just making a call to this static method of the class static demo directly without creating an object. How? By using the class name followed by a dot operator and the name of the method hello. Then after this I'm creating an object. So now after creating an object we say that the class has been instantiated, right? So then the constructor will be called, but before this constructor is called, hello method will be called. So that's the reason why when you run this program, you'll get the output first as this is a static method, then it will prompt you to enter your name and display a message hello for that name, and then after that this constructor method init will be invoked and it will display class instantiated. So let me show it. So you can see this is a static method, then it is asking you to enter your name, then it will display hello concatenated with that name that you entered earlier, and then the init method will display class instantiated. Okay, so what is the difference between the static method and normal class method? A static method must be uh, created by using a decorator, and what is the decorator? The decorator must be at the rate static method. Okay, so always whenever you find a at the rate symbol, it indicates that it is a decorator. Okay, so in this case, for creating a static method, what is the decorator you are using? At the rate static method. Okay, so this is about static method. So what is the difference between any other difference you find? You can also see it in Java. See, if I try to create one more object, say ob2, so what will happen? So this will again call the init method, and this or that will display again same message class instantiated. Okay, but coming to this hello method, static method, there will not be a separate copy for both these objects. As you know, when you create object for a class, a separate copy of all its members will be created, and whenever you try to access them by using a particular object, the copy of that particular object only will be accessed. And when you make any modifications to any of the members of the class for using that object, that will not be reflected with other objects members, right? But coming to static method, static methods are a single in copy, they will not be multiple. That means each object that you create will not be given any copy of that one, so you can access them directly. That's why using the name of the class instead of using object name. Okay, fine. So we'll get same class instantiated again. So just now we have seen static method, we'll see another kind of method called class method. So normally we have seen different methods. We were using the term class method earlier also, but they are different. Instead of calling them as class method, we should simply call them as methods. We should not use the term class method. Why? Because in Python, class methods are different from normal methods. Okay, so earlier I mentioned that we have seen only two types of methods. One is the constructor init method, and the other one is public methods, which do not use any decorator or which do not use any preceding double underscore symbols, right? But now we have seen another third type of method called static method. Now we are going to see fourth type of method called class methods. So what is this class method? So as mentioned here, class methods are little different from these ordinary methods. They are called by a class, not by instance of the class. Second, the first argument of the class method is CLS, not the self. Don't get confused between static method and class method. Static method will not have any parameter. It will not even have a self argument. right? But coming to the class method, it will have one argument that is called CLS. It must be the first one. Okay, so what is the difference? They are called by a class, just like how you call static methods, you can call these methods also by using the class. But the difference is the static method will not have any argument, the parameter additional argument. Okay, that is self argument. Coming to this class method, instead of having self argument, you will have another argument called CLS argument, which will specify that this is a class method. Okay, and we need to use something called a decorator, another decorator, just like for static method we have used static method decorator. For class method you have to use the class method decorator. Okay, so look at this class. The name of the class is rectangle. It contains first a constructor method, that is init. It receives two parameters, L and B, and L and B are initialized assigned to the object variables self.l and self.b. Then you have a normal method, a public normal method. It is neither a static method nor a class method. Okay, so it doesn't have any parameter, so you'll have a self argument for it. This is going to return self.l into self.b, which is nothing but length into breadth. Say for example it is a area of a rectangle. Okay, then after that you have a class method decorator, then followed by another method. So if you look at the syntax of this method, it is nowhere different from the normal public methods that we define in our class. So public methods also will use the same definition keyword def followed by method name, and then you will have a self argument if it does not receive any actual arguments. Okay, but coming to this class method, it has a same def keyword for defining the method, the name of the class, and then you have the first parameter you observe CLS. So the difference between a class method and normal method is we have to use the at the rate class method decorator. Syntactically I'm saying, okay, syntactical difference, you have to use at the rate class method, and then inside the parenthesis you must use a CLS parameter. Just like self argument is there for normal method, for class method you'll have CLS, and if any additional parameters you want to send, you can send. So this will receive the additional actual parameter, that is side method. Okay, what is this going to do? It is going to return, see, look at how I'm return. You have to use a keyword CLS that you used here, and within the parenthesis you have to specify side comma side. So what is this going to do? It is going to return the area of a square, area of a square. So let me show you how it returns. Let us execute the program and see, then you'll understand. And then we are left over with two more points here, three more points here. So we'll come back to this one after the output is shown. So it is simply displaying area of rectangle is 25. If you see the statements after the outside the class definition, what I am doing, I'm making a call to the square method. I'm making a call to the square method, rectangle dot square, and passing a parameter phi. I'm passing a parameter phi. So look at how I'm calling it. Because it is a class method, it can be called just like static methods are called. So use a class name rectangle dot square of phi. So this phi will be passed into this side. Okay, then I am displaying print area of rectangle is s dot area. So what is s here? Look at how am I calling. So this class method, it is returning an object. it is returning an object, right? So using that object s, I am calling area method. So what is this area method returning? It is returning self.l into self.b. So this print statement will print what? It will simply print area of the rectangle. Okay. So look at how I'm passing the two parameters for this CLS, side comma side. So what is this going to do? It is going to pass this side comma side as values for constructor, these two parameters L comma B. Okay. So what is side? 5. Side is 5 we are passing here. So it will pass 5 comma 5. So the 5 comma 5 will be copied to L comma B here, and as a result self dot L will be assigned with 5 and self dot B also will be assigned with B. And when you are making a call to area method, it is going to return self dot L into self dot B. So that is nothing but 5 into 5, which is nothing but 25. So that's why you are able to see the output area of rectangle is 25, right? So now instead of giving side comma side, instead of passing only one parameter side comma side, let me see whether it will work. If I pass, instead of this side, I'll give say s1 comma s2, then I'll give here s1 and s2 here. Okay, then here instead of giving one parameter, we need to give say two parameters. So now what is the output? Area of rectangle is 20. So what is this working? What is this happen? What is happening here? You can make this square method just like a factory method. What is a factory method? A factory methods, what they do is they normally return an object for the class in which they are defined. So where is this square method defined? It is defined in the class called rectangle. So what is this square method going to do? It is going to return, when you call it, it is going to return an object for the class rectangle, right? So that's the reason why when I'm making a call to square method using the class name rectangle dot square, before that I'm using an assignment operator and assigning the value returned by the square method to yes. So what is square method going to return? So as mentioned here, class methods will be returning what? They are called as factory methods, and they are used to, they'll return an object for the class in which they are defined. So this is going to return what? An object for the class rectangle, and that object, that instance will be stored in S, and now S can be used as an object for class rectangle. Okay, so normally how we were creating object for the class, object name is equal to class name, and within the parenthesis, if the init method receives any parameter, we will mention that parameters, otherwise we'll leave it blank, right? But look at the way how object is created here. We didn't use that syntax for creating an object here. Instead we are making a call to a method called square method, which is qualified as a class method by using the class method decorator, and it must receive one parameter at least, and that is CLS, right? So if you are using two parameters here, s1 s2, then when you are making a call to that square method, you need to pass two parameters. If you are having only one parameter, then you need to pass one parameter, right? So by making a call to square method, what is this going to do? This is in turn going to make a call to the init method, that is a constructor, which is nothing but you can do that by mentioning CLS here. Just like super keyword is used in Java, we'll use this CLS keyword to make a call to the constructor of the class. And this constructor, what it does is it will instantiate. So if you have mentioned here two parameters for the constructor, then using CLS you need to pass two parameters. If I have only one parameter here, then I can pass only one parameter. I need to pass only one parameter, right? So the number of parameters that you are passing for this CLS here depends on the number of parameters that you are that you are passing for the init constructor of the class. If there is only one parameter, then here also you need to pass one parameter. If there is two parameters here, then you need to pass two parameters here. So because our constructor is having two parameters L and B, so I need to pass two parameters here, right? Earlier I passed two parameters, same variable value, side comma side, right? So that will work as a square. But if you want to get a rectangle, then it will become it will have two different values, right? So s1 comma s2 are two different values. Length and breadth will be there for rectangle and their values will be different. If L is equal to B, then it will become square, right? So you can use this program in however way you want. If you are passing same value for s1 comma s2, then automatically this will return area of the square. If you are passing different values, it is nothing but it will work as a rectangle. Okay, so what is mentioned here, class methods are factory methods. And what are factory methods? Factory methods create and return object of the class, right? And class methods are created using class method decorator. So you can see the decorator used here before the square method. Just like before static method we use static method decorator, we need to use class method decorator before class method definition. And in that definition you need to make a call to CLS. Using CLS you need to make a call to the init method. Then this you have to use a return statement. It is mandatory, right? You must use return statement because the square method, this class method square is going to return an object of the class itself. So this return statement is must. And how to create an instance for that class? By making a call to the constructor by using the keyword cls followed by parenthesis. Within the parenthesis, if the constructor receives two parameters, you need to pass two parameters, right? But this s1 and s2 again are passed as parameters to the square class method. Or else you can do in a different way. Instead of using these parameters, you can directly pass some values also here itself. So that way also you can do, right? So I can remove this s1 comma s2 and just have cls, and directly I can mention here 10 comma say 12 instead of s1 comma s2. And when I create square, when I call square method, I need not pass any values here, right? Then the square method will be called, and square method in turn will make a call to the cl constructor init method, and it will initialize l and b with the 10 comma 12 and then return an object which is instantiated with those two values 10 and 12 for object variables l and b. So when you make a call using that object to the the area method will use that values that are instantiated for the object, that is 10 comma 12. Okay, so now look at the output. Area is 120, right? So this is how you can use a uh, class method. Got it? So have any doubts regarding this class method? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine.